Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Xandra, the community manager for CharmVerse and your host for today. If you don't know about CharmVerse, you should. We are a Web3 community platform for managing members, coordinating tasks, facilitating decisions, and holding each other accountable. Members can sign in with crypto wallets and gain access via community tokens and NFTs. And really, it's there to bring together onboarding, payment management, proposals, project trackers, and data repositories all in one place. So please check it out if you don't know about it or haven't tried it already, but wait until after the space because it's going to be a good one. So today we're chatting with David, co-founder of Unjumble. Hey, David, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Xandra, morning. Great
Good
to be here.
morning. Good morning for you because you're in Australia. Good evening for me because I am in the States in Maine.
Yeah, that's right. What time is
It's
it over
5
there?
p.m. here, so we're wrapping up the day and with me and starting the day with you.
Nice one. Yeah, really looking forward to this one and got a great audience here, a lot of people. So really excited for
Me
this chat.
too. Me too. So I'm glad we could make the times work. So it's funny. So is it Uncle Davo or Davo, your Twitter handle?
Yeah, Uncle
Davo.
Davo. So it's a popular nickname here in Australia, or like a shortened form of David. So yeah, it had when I started getting into Web3, had this username and it just stuck. So
I
here
like
we
it.
are.
It's catchy and it's easy to remember. And so I just had to ask. All right. So we're going to start by talking about Unjumble. And so Unjumble is bringing relevant community content from across multiple platforms into a daily email that's helping people get their information in one place. So this sounds pretty great. And does this mean we don't need to be like scrolling Discord and Twitter all day, worried we're going to miss something?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the reasons we started Unjumble. So it's a completely free product at the moment. So you just sign up and you can choose the specific communities or interests you want to keep up with. So, it could be your NFT projects, certain DAOs, and so on. And each day we have curated content and summarized content for people to give them a fully personalized daily digest. So each of our users get a completely unique email that just summarizes the content they want to see. So, there's no fluff. It's just curated. And the goal is to create a really high signal place for you to see your content, get the lay of the land, and hopefully spend a little less time doom scrolling and drowning in those notifications.
Absolutely. I did sign up for a personalized newsletter for myself last week, and I'm really liking it already. But yeah, let's walk people through kind of the process. So I sign up and I'm kind of selecting the platforms that I view regularly and maybe some of the more broader content that I like to follow, whether you're into like NFTs or DAOs or whatever, right? Um, and then also specific communities, like you said. So, I might be following Dead Fellas or something. So it's pretty cool that you can really personalize that to your tastes and what you're most interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, the goal is that specificity to give people exactly what they want and make the setup process easy. So, yeah, at the moment you can select specific communities. So, tracking, Twitter accounts or Farcaster accounts and stuff like that that are tied to creators or NFT projects and DAOs. And we expand that list constantly. So, you can just request a community and we usually add it within the next day or so. And then, yeah, these interests are sort of like a combination of different things. So, for example, if you're into DeFi or Polygon NFTs or Ethereum NFTs or Web3 social, you can sign up to interests that sort of summarize what's happening quite succinctly. And for that as well, just because there's so much content out there, we use AI to summarize what's happening. So it's a really easy to digest newsletter. And what we're going for is this sort of front page of what's happening with your Web3. so you don't miss out on any important information. And we're not replacing Twitter or Farcast or anything like that. We're just this additional tool that you can use for free to quickly see what's going on in your Web3.
Yeah, it really is digestible. I like it. I feel like you can spend so much time sorting through these platforms. Um, and this just, it really does. It makes it very digestible. So you also mentioned earlier that it's curated. So in a sense, we're curating our own, but how are you curating this for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do it algorithmically at the moment. So mostly algorithmically. So basically, we look at some simple heuristics, like, for example, if it's a Twitter post, like number of likes, retweets, and comments based on the size of the community. So, we can see where a post is performing quite well relatively to where it is. The other things we do are just like where we've set up keywords and filtering to remove certain things. So, for example, if it's an expired Twitter space, it's not recorded, you won't see that because we filter that out. If it's a short post that might not contain information, we've got parameters set up to remove that. And then the other thing we do is allow users to submit content. So, for example, by tagging Unjumble on Farcaster, you can submit content to us automatically, and that gets pulled into the newsletter. So, over time, we're using both algorithmic curation, so AI, as well as user curation to really make sure it's high signal, that there's a feedback loop to improve what we're doing. Just because I think if you went pure algorithmic, pure AI, you might miss out on the good stuff.
Yeah, I could see that happening. And also, listeners, you can update your preferences at any time. So when you're first signing up, if you don't want to go all in on all the categories and then later you feel like stuff's missing, you can update that stuff whenever you want. David, you've mentioned Farcaster a couple times, and we are going to dig into that later because if people don't know about Farcaster, they should, and I definitely want to talk about that. But I was also asked to submit my wallet address. Does this go into the curation process too?
Yeah, so sign up is really, really quick. So if you're listening, if you go to Unjumble.xyz at any point, you can get this free personalized digest so you don't miss out on airdrops or any updates or anything like that. By just putting in your email and then answering some optional questions. One of those optional questions is to provide your wallet address. You don't need to connect anything if you're worried about that. You can just paste in a wallet address. The reason we take wallet addresses is because we have a database where we automatically track certain communities. So we have their token ID, like so their contract addresses, and so, based on the wallet address you input, we can allocate you to certain communities and interests. So if I see that you have a Farcaster ID, you can see Farcaster updates. Or if you have a Deadfellas NFT, you'll be signed up to Deadfellas updates. Of course, you can manually select those things in the sign up process or whenever you want um, as you're getting these emails. But it just makes it easier for people. So it's a step there for ease of use. And then in terms of how we're moving forward, connecting your wallet and actually doing that will be used for rewards and incentives there as well for submission of content. So yeah, TLDR, we use it to give you a better daily digest.
I didn't realize they were optional questions. I just went through and filled everything out. And even then, listeners, it's super fast, super easy. And the next day I had my personalized digest in my email. So definitely encourage you to go do it. If you're like me, spending a ton of time online, just trying not to miss anything, this is a great, easy way to get all of that content. And you're going to see stuff from social media to long form data, and more. And it's just so convenient to have everything in one place. Another question I had, and maybe I missed this, was you mentioned that you can control how we see the content. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so this is sort of related to our, longer term vision. At the moment, in terms of how you're seeing content, it's really around, whether you're selecting specific communities or interests and giving people more flexibility around that. But over time, what we're looking to do is, experiment with building an app to be able to show content natively there and be able to dive in there. The other things we're looking at are, granularity. So if you don't want a daily digest, maybe it's a weekly digest. If you want to see certain communities more frequently than others, perhaps like options to do that. So really letting the users control how they engage with content is what we want to do. I guess like if you're using Twitter at the moment, and especially if it's in Web3, it really is just like drinking from the fire hose. So, we want to provide some nice cups of different sizes.
I very much appreciate that. As a content creator, I am on there all the time, and I do feel like it just sucks so much time of my day. And already, I feel like these digests are helping, so it's working. And you're building a rewards program, or did you already? And what is this going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now, what we have is a simple referral program. So, if you sign up at the end, you can submit your, um, Twitter handle and generate a referral code. And the more people you invite, the more you'll get in terms of rewards. So, we have some cool things coming that way. So, do encourage everyone to sign up and get their friends on. What we're building with the rewards program, though, is the ability for people to submit content to us and for that to be, for them to be rewarded for that. So at the moment, it's like it's quite difficult to be rewarded for what you do on social media. You might post about the DAO that you're in or community that you're in, but there's no through line to you actually being rewarded. And what's even worse is if you're a curator, if you're liking content, if you're engaged and doing that. Number one, it's hard for you to find a platform for your curation. And number two, you're not being rewarded for that. But that's really important. When there's so much content out there, I think it's really important to have user curation, to have like real people that really care about what's being put out there to select, what's important to them, why it's important, and so on. So we're rewarding curation. We're rewarding the submission of content for specific communities. So, we use AI to source and summarize content, but a big push for us will be having users and real fans contribute to that. And where they do that, they'll be rewarded. So we're trying to build like a more composable rewards program where the communities that are using Farcaster, and for example, if I have a Dead Fellas or a Nouns, and I tag Unjumble and I submit content to the newsletter for those communities, having the ability for those communities to reward me as well. So this sort of two-way process of both being rewarded by Unjumble and those other communities, I think, is what we're looking at building. So specking that out and testing with users, and it'll be coming soon.
Cool. So it's kind of like gamifying engagement.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what we want to do is really ensure that the incentives we bake in allow for meaningful engagement and really feed back into the digest being useful for a lot of people. So it's quite hard to do that and takes a lot of time and thinking. So we're currently testing with a lot of our current users, a few ways this could work to make sure we get it right.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to follow along on the journey and continue to see how that shakes out. Because as we know, with communities, you want people to be engaged, but you want quality work. And how do you reward them for that? And we're all still learning. It's all still new. So I'm curious to see how it all shakes out. So we at CharmVerse have a special place in our hearts for creators. We just put out a creator template. We really want creators to be able to build their brand and amplify their content and monetize their content. And it seems that you have a special place in your heart for creators, projects, and communities to improve discovery and meaningful engagement. So, how are you doing this, and what kind of things is Unjumble offering to creators?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely have a special place in my heart for creators. Back in 2021, started an AI art NFT project. So one of the first. This was back before we saw the current explosion of things. But my thesis there was around democratizing the ability to create things, to give people a platform there, with that project. Things we did were like being able to simply mint AI art NFTs. So you could create your own art, mint it, and then have it featured in our collection. And that's still going to this day, and that's a decentralized community that's going to this day. Um, so really, I think Web3 has the potential to enable creators to do more. I think, like, in terms of models for generating revenue, for bootstrapping community, for creating a brand, are really, really great. But I think you're right. Discoverability is such a huge issue. When things are decentralized, when you're having to use social media like Twitter, or platforms like Discord, it's easy to get lost in the noise. And so, it's really hard for up and coming creators to break out. What we're doing is allowing any of these communities, projects, or creators, even if it's just a person with a Substack or someone that's putting out threads consistently and wants to grow, they can come to us and say, hey, like, we'd like to be added as a community on Unjumble. And we do that. If there's interest and demand, if 3 to 5 people ask, you just get 3 to 5 of your fans, get them to request the community, and you're there. And so now you have a different touch point. You don't have to worry about, okay, will the Twitter algorithm be kind to me and let me show up in my followers' feeds? No, instead, like, if people opt in to seeing your content, they get to see your content. It's like a space where, alongside the huge projects or huge updates of the day, I can also see my favorite creators. And also, based on the type of things I'm interested in, we recommend up and coming creators to you. So, yeah, we do that free for creators as well at the moment, just because it's something we really believe in.
Amazing. I love that. And yeah, it sounds like CharmVerse and Unjumble are very much on the same page in that sense. We really just want to help people get their content out there into the world. And I love that if you have a couple people send a request, you get a couple of your friends to send something, they can have that for free. So if we have creators out there listening, definitely check out Unjumble, because that could open up a whole new world for you. And same with CharmVerse. And we're going to get into collaboration and communication in decentralized communities very shortly here. But I think it's worth talking about, like having these platforms that are here to support you, so you have control over your content and you choose how it's monetized. But we'll dig into that very shortly, like I said. So speaking of communities, David, you're an avid Farcaster and a member of Purple. You've dropped Farcaster a couple times, and let's tell people what that's about in case they don't know about either of these communities, because both are very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am realizing I have name dropped Farcaster a lot. So basically, Farcaster is a sufficiently decentralized social network. So if you think about protocols like Lens, they go for like a certain model of decentralization and having more stuff on chain, so more of the social graph on chain. Farcaster is progressing towards that decentralization. So they have a hub model to do things, but basically it allows people to come in, like, build on top of the protocol. So there are all these clients and bots and other fun things happening. Um, and the client at the moment is a Twitter-like client called Warpcast. So Farcaster is the protocol. There are different apps. The main app is Warpcast, that's developed by the same people as that developed the protocol. So it's a Twitter-like client, but the difference is initially for users, it's a pretty good community of founders, builders, VCs, creators, and fans as well. So, it's an invite-only application at the moment, just while they're getting started. But I think the permissionless nature of the app as well means that people are just empowered to build things. They're not worried about API access being taken. And they have a community to sort of bootstrap and to test and show what they're building too. And so it's just this really fun community of really cool things being built. Great place to go for advice on what's happening in Web3 as a builder or creator, and to keep up with what's going on. So it feels quite different from Twitter in that sense. Like, there is a bit of a Web3 focus, or, Web3 adjacent focus, but, not very spammy, quite easy to keep up, and feels almost like one big Telegram chat, where it's like a lot of people sort of in the Ethereum world and their interests and so on, but you get to know some of the characters there. So it's this lovely, warm community that I really recommend people trying to get an invite and checking out.
Absolutely. It is very cool. I am on there. I'm not very active, but you can definitely see the people that pop up all the time that are super active. Um, and it's still a small community. I don't know how many people are on Twitter, but it's still a small community. It's really positive vibes on there, I feel like. It could be funny stuff. Like you said, there could be advice. Definitely more Web3 focused, but there's not that negativity, I feel like, that you find on a lot of these other social networks. So definitely check it out. Before we jump into Purple, though, I have someone requesting to speak. And are you open for questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Tarek, I'm going to bring you up on stage so you can ask a question. It's connecting now. And who is it? I want to say it's like Daniel Romero is who you would contact, or that you should follow on Twitter, because he will let you know when he's giving out more invites. Is that right?
That's right. I think
Okay.
you can. The other thing to mention is, if you're let's put it this way. If you sign up to the Unjumble app, so if you go to Unjumble.xyz and you refer some friends and then reply to an email, I'll pick one person to give an invite out to. But the regular way to do it is to DM Dan Romero, so DWR on Twitter, as to why you want to be on there. But yeah, it's really worth getting an invite. Like, it's just a great place to be in Web3, I think.
Absolutely. I think it's the place to be in Web3, and it's kind of still at the ground floor right now. So if that's something you're interested in, go to Unjumble, message them, or thank you for giving me that handle, DWR, on Twitter, and give them a follow. And they usually say, I'm accepting invites, send me a DM. And from there, it's pretty easy to get in there. Tarek, okay, what's your question for Uncle Davo? Tarek, you want to come up? Unmute yourself? Can I unmute you? I don't know. All right. Well, Tarek, if you unmute yourself and join us, we're happy to take a question. But I guess for now, we will move on and talk about Purple, because Purple is connected to Farcaster. But tell us about that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So Purple's a DAO that has the goal of proliferating and expanding the Farcaster protocol and the ecosystem at large. So it's a nounish DAO. It's built with Nouns Builder, which means each day a token is put up for auction. You can bid on that, and then the proceeds from the auction go to a treasury. And what the DAO does is, you have a governance vote, can submit proposals, can vote on grants that use the treasury too. So it's really this community of people that are really interested in growing the Farcaster ecosystem. So there are a lot of great builders and so on, Chris from CharmVerse is there as well. So we use CharmVerse to heat check proposals and to work there, and it's been really really good. We can use sort of the Notion like tools that are token gated in CharmVerse to do that, and yeah, it's this great community of builders. It's really good to be able to see what's happening in Farcaster, really talk to them, really figure out what to build on Farcaster as well. You can, heat check your proposals in CharmVerse. You can message in the Discord to see what should be built. But it's just this fun community of people that are really values aligned. So I made sure to join up recently, and I'm really excited to do more with them.
Yeah, I hear about Purple a lot because I work with Chris. He's fantastic. A big Nounish guy in general. He's how I learned about Nounish DAOs. But yeah, it seems like a very, very cool community, and you guys are building public goods, right? It's a public goods DAO.
Yeah, that's right. So so you can submit proposals for anything. They don't necessarily have to be public goods, but that's generally what gets funded and what's the focus. Um, Farcaster being a decentralized social network and being quite early, it's really important to have certain public goods. And it's one of the strengths of decentralized social as well. These, commons that you have, whether it's programmatic or whether it's someone just, taking the time to produce some great content or write a blog or whatever. Having these commons is really critical to the success of decentralized social. So yeah, it's a DAO that funds that sort of stuff.
And listeners, if you're not familiar with public goods, like a public goods DAO, I would say they fall under the Impact DAO umbrella. They're definitely their separate place in that, but they're definitely part of the Impact DAO, just trying to do good things for the world, whether it's for people or whatever. So building public goods. So what attracted you to these communities? Was it the Web3 aspect? Was it the being a builder, being a founder? What was really the main attraction for you?
Yeah, it's a long story, but the short of it is, I've been interested in blockchain and crypto for years and years and years now. But previous to coming in full time as a founder, worked at a think tank, and so a lot of what I did there was thinking through, how communities could be more sovereign or have more control of their outcomes, how they could work with government and vice versa to control what's going on. And, really quickly, for work, we had to research different technological ways of furthering that. And it was clear with what's going on in Web3, like forming DAOs, being able to allocate funds, and so on, that there was definitely a use case there for using Web3 to do that. So, what I'm really interested in and what I have really high conviction on is the ability to create these programmatic commons. So these like building blocks that anyone can use that will get more specific over time and more useful over time to build their own communities that can do more. So they can transact, they can do decision making more easily, and so on. And that's really why I came to Web3. And I think Farcaster is just like a great example of this protocol for communication of all sorts that people can build on top of, that I'm really excited to build on top of as well. Like as a builder, there's no fear that, they'll restrict access to the API for me, or, I'll be banned for some, arbitrary reason or accidentally. So that's another thing that's quite useful. So I think Web3 social at the moment, uh, really it's great for builders. Like as in you see the value prop immediately. There's no fear of the API being taken away from you and all of that. And so the knock-on effect is for the users. Then you're getting more, and you're getting these cool experimental things as well that come out of it, which is really, really cool. So yeah, I'm big into Web3 social, and big into tools like CharmVerse as well, that really are designed for these token communities and do things like build relationships, help people work together, help with the voting process, and really have that composability in mind.
I was just at ETH Denver, and I felt like I was hearing a lot about Web3 social platforms, social networks. It seems to be a big focus right now. Everyone was kind of starting to form one. So curious to see what happens with that in the coming year. So you were just leading into the next topic, which is, is you being part of a decentralized social platform like Farcaster and a DAO like Purple. Let's talk about community and collaboration within these decentralized communities. Because as I said, CharmVerse is very much facilitating that, and Unjumble is definitely working towards improving that communication through dissemination of content. So you already named a few, but let's talk about it a bit more. Like some strengths that are offered through by decentralized communities when it comes to communication and collaboration. I mean, you mentioned the decision making and voting, the governance stuff. But what are some of the biggest strengths you see?
Yeah, I think in terms of communication and collaboration, one of the things that's so important, like the foundational thing for a lot of these communities, is there's a vision or a set of values that generally people ascribe to, in these decentralized communities. Whether it's this feeling of why we're doing something decentralized, or it's more specific, so it's a nounish DAO with the intention to do a certain thing. So, with Purple, to grow the Farcaster ecosystem, that sort of ability to call out these values and to have these building blocks for values or foundational values is really important and really enables the communication and collaboration. From there, I think the big thing about decentralization is the composability. So it's being able to use certain tools and integrations more freely than you could in Web 2. So, for example, if I look at CharmVerse, the integrations you have, so logging in with your wallet, having your identity connected in that way, role-based access to different things, forums and payments and so on, all of those integrations are so useful and really help expand the scope of what you can do. You can build on top of that, have sub communities really easily. It's easy for people to spin up their own thing. So I think there's this huge, um, huge room to do things that you couldn't do in a centralized community. And to me, that flexibility is the biggest strength, and that ability to be independent or spin off sub communities is another huge thing.
Agreed. Yeah. And thank you for speaking to so many things about CharmVerse. You know, I'm going to just elaborate on that. David mentioned being able to sign in with your wallet and having your identity connected and role-based access. So you can really token gate your space, or the forum feature even, on who can see what based on their role, set up permissions, really kind of just fine tune those permissions as you want it to be in that community, which is really powerful. Or a forum, if you want to have more structured discussions, right? We're making it very easy to have that within your community with threaded comments and upvoting and downvoting, kind of Reddit style, so you can find that solid content, the best voted content, if you will. And we really just want to make it easy. That's the point of CharmVerse. Try to make it easy and efficient for these decentralized communities to communicate and to collaborate and to work towards that shared mission, because that's very much what Purple is working towards, and these impact DAOs or any of these DAOs. It's this shared mission and these shared values, and these people are working towards that. And it's really beautiful. I think that's a really beautiful thing about Web3 is you're finding your people, that share those values, that share that enthusiasm towards those missions. So I love that CharmVerse, that I'm part of CharmVerse, and we're working towards that. I also love that you're part of these communities working towards that. But Unjumble is also helping you find your people and the communities you want to be in touch with and up to date on. So I think it's really important what both of our projects are working on. So how about pain points that we're currently experiencing and that we should improve upon?
Yeah, I think with decentralization, the biggest pain point to me is discoverability and accessibility. So, number one, like finding these awesome projects and creators that you feel aligned with. And like, I think a big contributor to that is the platforms we're using, right? Like, these platforms are fragmented. If we talk about Twitter, it's just like preying on your attention, and so on. And then there's just so much content for these communities that are often put out there, but really hard to discover. They're not under the one umbrella if it's a decentralized community, just by design. So that's sort of the issue we're really working on with Unjumble. And then in terms of engagement and accessibility, some of these concepts are difficult. I think we talked a lot about a nounish DAO, and that's now become a primitive that's quite um, widely known in certain circles, and like there are other people that have built on that. But I don't know, even just like going there, understanding that there's like an auction that you have to bid on to be able to join as a member, then going into the Discord, and then going and using other tools or understanding how proposals work is quite hard. And I think the other thing as well is understanding where to contribute or how to contribute is really tough. Like, how much time should I be spending in this thing? Like, where can my skill sets be used? And I think like Purple right out the gates has been pretty good for that. So like it's been genuinely useful for like heat checking a proposal. You can contribute by like adding comments or adding suggestions for proposals or like blogs that people write and so on. And so I think um, that those collaboration tools become more and more important. And I think tools that allow for integrations, like with CharmVerse, what CharmVerse is doing with integrations with like Google Docs or Notion and other platforms is really cool. And we're trying to do more of that with different content sources and so on from Jumble over time as well.
I think those are all really good points. I mean, talking about the discoverability, Unjumble is helping get that word out, right? The creator support, getting the content out there. Same with CharmVerse, helping those creators brand themselves, right? And get their brand into the world. But also the accessibility, that was something we came across when kind of recently building CharmVerse is not everyone wants to jump through the hoops of getting a wallet, especially if they're not fully on board with Web3. And so for those Web2 people that are dipping a toe, we were like, you know what, we need to make this easier. So we implemented Google login, right? Because it's familiar to people and they're not scared of the wallet thing, or they don't even have to jump into Discord at that point. They can kind of ease into the process. And I feel like we talk to a lot of Web3 people who want to use our platform, but they still have a big Web2 audience that are still a little skeptical and still a little scared. So I think having that accessibility, if we want to onboard more people into the space, I think that's really important. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really love that approach. I really love that there's flexibility in sign up, that you can sign up with your wallet, with Discord, with Google. That's really awesome. And yeah, we're trying to do the same thing or like similar. And I think people that are, or products that are doing the same thing, I really admire. So yeah, you like for Unjumble, you can sign up with just an email, and select preferences if you want to, but it's up to you. And so, really trying to build something that's good for people just dipping their feet into crypto and power users as well. But yeah, I'm really excited for account abstraction and for that to get even easier, right? Like some of the most creative, community minded, sort of values aligned people I know aren't into Web3 just because of that friction. You know what I mean? So I think once we solve that problem, we'll see a lot more being built on blockchain.
Agreed. I think we really need to look outside of the people that are already evangelized into this space and really keep in mind the people that we're trying to bring in, because we need to onboard more of those people and we need to make them feel comfortable and confident in this space. And even just that, the jargon that gets thrown around, right? I remember when I'm still going to call myself a newbie to Web3, but the jargon, it's like a whole language of its own, and it's really overwhelming. And you just feel like, I don't belong here. I don't know what you're saying. You're speaking a different language. And so even that, being able to minimize the jargon and the acronyms, it can make people feel more comfortable, right? So instead of token gating, you can say role-based access, right? Or VIP access, just to make it a little easier to digest those concepts. And I think the integrations, and you mentioned a couple things that I think are important. The integrations, being willing to integrate to make things easier for people, because we can't build it all ourselves. Web3 is very much about collaboration. And, one of the things that I think you mentioned it was, maybe, I don't know, NFT subscriptions. I was just thinking of. We paired with Cask Protocol. So, these creators can use NFT subscriptions to generate income. And I think that's really important. Again, back to these creators, a way for them to generate income and really monetize their content. So, and then another thing you mentioned, contribution of time and skills when you join a community, and Chris or Purple kind of being good. I feel like Chris is very well versed in DAOs. And so when Purple was founded and he was kind of at the forefront of it, I think he really had this idea of what has worked for him in the past of other DAOs he's been in, and what hasn't worked as well. So I'm glad to hear that it is going well, because I think it is tricky to say, how much time is this going to take up every week? Or how much time am I willing to be putting into it? Or what skills do I need? I think that's a really good point, that really needs, those expectations need to be managed.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris does a really, really great job of leading by example. And so submitting proposals, like if he votes on something, giving a reason for that and establishing that as a thing, like a culture that happens at Purple. And yeah, like just a nounish guy, just very aligned with, a lot of the ethos of Web3 and really visible in his actions and his passion, which is awesome. And so it's really cool. Like, I think, just speaking to you, having spoken to Chris, it's a cool team you've got at CharmVerse.
Thank you. I feel really fortunate to be a part of this team. And they really are. Like I said, I came into Web3 not too long ago, and everyone was super great to welcome me in and help me learn and, send me articles and answer my questions. And I feel really privileged to be a part of this team. So thank you. And Chris is fantastic. He came on shortly after I did as head of product, and there's so much to learn from that man. So, I'm happy to be around him and absorbing that knowledge. So you've mentioned that you're using CharmVerse again for Purple, and you've said very nice things about it. But so, how has your experience been? Mostly positive? Are there like some things that you might want to change or wish we had? Please be honest, because I love this feedback and I think it's important. Listeners, if you use CharmVerse, please always drop into our Discord. If you have any issues or feature requests, we do take those seriously and try to build for our users. So David, I'm just curious on, and any additional feedback, good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've really had a positive experience with CharmVerse. Like it's a tool that I I want to start using for my own communities over time. Like I want to get more of them using CharmVerse. The feature I really love are these Notion like spaces that you have where if you've used Notion, it's really intuitive to use, and then people can just like Google Docs, right? Like you can submit a blog you're going to write or a proposal you might write, and then you can submit comments and submissions for them, reply to comments. That's really, really useful. And it's really useful to have this decentralized tool that does that, which is awesome. I think like in terms of feedback, um, or like wish to have, like I think it's the case even in Web 2 platforms where it's sometimes hard to get um, comments and suggestions to sync. Like if you switch between one or the other, I think this is maybe a me issue, but I sometimes lose if I'm commenting and then moving to a suggestion. I sometimes lose the comment, or vice versa. But that happens quite rarely, and I think will improve over time.
You're not
Um,
crazy. It's not you. It was a thing, and we were actually having a discussion about it earlier this week, and I believe that they are working on it right now because that was a thing where it was hard to find. Like you'd see a comment box or a little comment icon, but then you couldn't see where it was referencing when you were looking at the actual comment. So I don't believe it's you. I think we are fixing that. But good feedback.
Yeah, but otherwise, like, I mean, just from out the gates, like, it's a really useful tool and really easy to use, and I really like that about it. I think like if I could add things, ooh, like maybe some more documentation for developers around the API. Like there already is that page, but maybe like some examples or something over time would be useful. Just because now I want to integrate CharmVerse into Unjumble. So that's a bit selfish. I think the other thing that would be really cool is like, there are these templates you mentioned for creators and so on. Just like almost like showing how different communities are using Charmverse because it's so flexible and there are so many different integrations. But I think for a new user, it'd be cool to see, okay, this is like purple DAO. This is a specific type of DAO or whatever. And these are this is how they're using Charmverse. Like these are the tools they use. Or, this is a creator. This is how they're using Charmverse. These are the integrations that matter or how they're using like how they're inviting in their community and so on. I think like that side of things would be really cool, and then like I could convince my communities to come on Jamverse as well. But I think overall the tool is just really easy to use. Like it feels quite intuitive if you've used tools like Notion or Airtable and so on. So I really love that about it.
Well, thank you. As far as the Notion comment, I mean, we were definitely inspired by Notion. We've used Notion. We love Notion. We just wanted those Web3 capabilities. So, listeners, if you're not familiar with Charmverse and you go in there and you're a Notion user, it's going to feel very familiar. Because we didn't want it to be a brand new tool that everyone has to learn, right? Because when you're switching platforms, it sucks. No one likes switching platforms, and it usually detracts us from doing it because it feels like such a big project. But Charmverse was built with that in mind, so it feels familiar when you get in there. We also have an ability to import your Notion space. There's a button for that to make it easy to kind of transfer that information over and get your stuff onto the Web3 side of things. And David, it's like you're reading our minds. I believe they're working on templates for APIs currently. Hot take on that. And as far as the templates for communities, we actually just added a few of those. So if you go in to create a new space, you'll automatically be given the option to create a template or create a space from a template like an NFT community, or you're running a hackathon. You can kind of start with a hackathon template just so you don't need to start from scratch, and you can just take out the placeholder image, put in your image. Take out the placeholder information, put in your information. And same with like impact communities. And I'm totally spacing on a couple. Oh, I think we have a nounish one even. So we do have that. So we're ready. We're ready for you to use that for your other projects. But great ideas and things that we've definitely heard about. And so we've started to implement. So I'm glad that we are already keeping up with some of your demands.
This is amazing. This is amazing. I am going to be shilling my communities on Unjumble, or on CharmVerse rather. They are definitely going to be using those cool tools.
I love it. That makes me happy. And yeah, if you have questions along the way, please reach out to me. I'm happy to walk you through some of it. I know you also have Chris you can reach out to. He's an expert as well. I don't want to keep you long, but there is a question that I love asking founders because I feel like we must have some future founders or founders in the making here. So, what is something as a founder, something you did very right that you would consider a must do? Share your knowledge with us.
Still learning every day. I think the biggest thing is listening to your users and getting feedback in different ways. So, easy surveys, just asking them to reply, just cold DMing users, or so on. Scheduling interviews regularly, just to get this sort of understand the problem you're looking to solve and the specifics, just so you have this understanding of types of users or the user that you're building all of this stuff for. That's been a really, really useful thing for us, and something I think we've gotten right. I think the other thing is like to be active in the space that you're looking to pursue or looking to build in. So if you're building a Web3 social tool, like, go and join other Web3 social communities, and protocols and so on, and really build your knowledge, like understand the space, meet people and so on. Because I think a huge thing in Web3 is it's not like zero sum in terms of competitors. Like the strength is around composability and building on top of each other and together with each other. So, say you have this idea for a DApp or something, and it's very similar to another one, and you think, oh, but in 5 years I might, build in the same area as them, and they're a competitor. I don't know. That's it's not the right mindset to have. I think viewing things as positive sum, working together with other projects, collaborating as much as you can is really, really important. And so that's a tip I'd have to founders that are looking to build in the space for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. I always think this is very valuable. Like you said, you're still learning all the time, but I think you've made it this far, and it's important to share that knowledge. I think listening to your users is a great piece of advice. Like I said, we try to do that at CharmVerse, try to build for our users because they're the people using the product. They're telling us what they want to be able to do with our product, right? And I think you nailed it. It's really important to be listening to that feedback, whether it can be hard feedback to hear, whether it's bugs being reported or what they love about the product. But I think that's great. And as far as being active in the space, I think that's invaluable information. I think, like we said, Web3 is very much about collaboration and integrations and meeting those people. You never know who you're going to meet and if there's a way that you can work with them in the future, right? Also, I think it's a good sign if someone else is building what you're building, there's a need for it. Someone believes there's a need for it. And I think rather than seeing them as a competitor, instead, they could be an ally. You can learn from them and potentially work with them in the future. So I think that's all great advice. So thank you again. So a few minutes left. Any last shout outs that we should know about? Last words to leave our listeners with about Unjumble or any of your communities?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can sign up right now for a free personalized daily digest that gives you all the secrets, all the updates, all of the cool stuff you need to know in Web3. And sign up takes less than a minute. If you just go to Unjumble.xyz, you can see the link to sign up there and start getting your daily digest immediately. Cool rewards coming out. If you have any feedback as well on what we're doing, like just let us know, because we're constantly shipping new integrations, new features, and working on that reward capability as well. So there's something in there for everyone that's in this space. The other things as well, like if you have any questions or feedback based on what we've talked about, just feel free to DM me. I check all my DMs, so definitely do that. I think, yeah, in terms of other communities, I'm really into like sort of the ways that technology can enable what we're talking about. So creativity, collaboration, and community. So another project that I'm involved with and a founder of is called Dystope AI. The link is in my bio, but that's essentially using AI to allow people to do cool things. So we have free Discord AI art bots, and use tools as public goods. So develop AI art tools as public goods. So if you're interested in that, come check it out. Otherwise, as well, if you've got a CharmVerse space that you're proud of, and you want to show me how you're using CharmVerse, please also DM me, because I'm really keen to use it more personally and with my other communities. Use it a lot for Purple, and like Chris sometimes posts essays there for feedback and so on. But yeah, like I would be really curious for listeners to get in touch and show me what they're doing, or maybe tweet about it and tag me. Just really, really keen to use CharmVerse, especially after hearing the cool new features that have been dropped and are coming out.
Cool. Well, like I said, if you ever want a walkthrough of CharmVerse, outside of Purple, or have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Everyone, do it. Go sign up at Unjumble.xyz. It's super easy, super fast. I think we had a comment that someone already signed up. I'm sure they're not the only ones. And leave FOMO behind and keep up with your favorite Web3 communities in a curated daily email. It's easy and you're going to love it. I did it and I love it already. So make sure you click David's PFP, give him a follow. Also check out that Dystope AI that he mentioned, and make sure you go follow Unjumble.xyz. It's at Unjumble.xyz, website Unjumble.xyz. So David, thank you so much. You've been an absolute pleasure.
Oh no, thank you. You've you like really, really great to chat, and yeah, I'm just so excited to really dive into CharmVerse, and also really buoyed by this conversation as well. Really, really great to chat to someone else about like all of this stuff I'm so passionate about, and that I can see you're so passionate about, and really building a cool, useful product that I think can do a lot for decentralized communities. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Yeah, David, right back at you. It has been a pleasure. The hour has flown by, and I look forward to continuing this conversation offline, talking about CharmVerse, talking about potential integrations, and excited to keep getting my daily newsletter. So thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, David, and I'll be in touch. Bye, everyone.
Bye everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.